My sister tried to break my engagement, but what happened in the end changed everything. And if you had told me a year ago that the person I trusted the most would turn into the storm that nearly destroyed my life, I would have laughed. Because betrayal never comes from enemies, it arrives wearing the face you grew up loving, and mine arrived wearing my sister's smile. My name is Alina, and today I'm going to tell you the story that reshaped my entire world. A story that began on an ordinary morning when I thought I had everything under control, when I believed my future was clear, planned, and safe. But the universe has a strange way of testing the foundations you think are unbreakable. I was engaged to a man named Rayhan, someone gentle in a world that often forgets how to be kind. Someone who looked at me the way people look at home after being lost for too long. And for a while, I believed that love was enough to calm every storm life could throw. But I did not know that sometimes storms come from the inside, from the very walls you think protect you. My sister, Zara, had always been close to me, or at least that's what I wanted to believe, because sometimes love blinds you more than hatred ever could. And I never saw the quiet envy simmering beneath her compliments, never noticed the tightness in her smile whenever Rayhan held my hand, and never questioned why she always wanted to know every detail of our relationship, as if collecting puzzle pieces for a picture she was not supposed to complete. It began subtly. So subtly that I blamed myself for imagining it. The whispered comments, the strange warnings, the sudden concern that never matched her expression, and the constant reminder that marriages can break more than they bind. But I brushed it away because she was my sister, and sisters don't plant poison in each other's lives, right? That's what I kept telling myself until the day everything started collapsing, like a sandcastle meeting the tide. I remember the moment vividly, the air heavy with the scent of jasmine, my mother decorating trays for the engagement dinner, laughter echoing from the kitchen, and my phone lighting up with a message from an unknown number. A message that made my heart drop so violently I almost forgot to breathe. It was a screenshot of Rayhan with another woman. Except the thing was, I knew that woman. She was Zara's friend, someone who had barely spoken to Rayhan twice in her life. My mind spun, torn between disbelief and the bitterness rising in my throat. But before I could gather myself, Zara entered the room with the perfectly timed concern of a person rehearsing her lines, asking what happened, why I looked pale, was something wrong. And I showed her the screenshot because I trusted her, because she was my sister, because I still didn't understand that she was the puppeteer behind the curtain. She gasped too dramatically, too quickly, and said she suspected something. And those words burned into my skin like fire. Why would she suspect something unless she was searching for something? Why would she know more about my fiancé than I did unless she was digging where she didn't belong? But I was naive, drowning in panic, and she guided me like a shepherd guides a lost lamb toward conclusions she had crafted long before this moment. She told me men lie, even the gentle ones, that I deserved better, that maybe it was better to call off the engagement before I ended up heartbroken, and while she spoke, her voice sounded soft, almost loving, but there was a glimmer in her eyes, something sharp, something victorious, and my stomach twisted in ways I couldn't explain. I didn't sleep that night. The screenshot replayed like a curse behind my eyelids, and every second felt like drowning in thoughts that weren't even mine, thoughts planted by someone I trusted blindly. But Rayhan kept calling, kept texting, asking if I was okay, asking why I was distant, asking what he had done wrong. And a part of me wanted to pick up, wanted to believe him, but Zara was always there, like a shadow attached to my fear, telling me not to confront him yet, telling me she would handle it, telling me she would find the truth. I didn't know that she already had the truth, she just didn't want me to know it. The next day, she handed me another message, another screenshot that supposedly came from the same unknown number, this time suggesting that Rayhan had been meeting that same girl privately. But something felt off. Something in the wording, something in the tone. I stared at it for a long time before realizing that the unknown number used phrases that Zara herself often used when texting. My breath caught. My hands shook. A coldness spread through me like frost creeping up a window pane. And for the first time in my life, I looked at my sister and felt something unfamiliar. Suspicion. Doubt.
fear. But before I could question anything, before I could even catch my breath, Zara made her biggest move yet. She told my parents. Not about the screenshots, but about her fear that Rayhan wasn't loyal, spinning a story so smooth it slid straight into their hearts, leaving me standing there like a criminal on trial for a crime I didn't commit. My mother cried. My father went silent in the way men go silent when disappointment outweighs anger. And I felt myself shrinking, collapsing under a weight that wasn't mine. And that's when the real twist began, because Rayhan showed up at our doorstep unannounced, demanding to know why my family was treating him like a stranger, demanding to know why Zara was spreading lies about him, demanding to see me. And when I saw him standing there breathless and desperate, something inside me cracked open, letting the truth seep through the fog Zara had created around me. When I saw Rayhan standing there, drenched in sweat from running, eyes burning not with guilt, but with a kind of fierce confusion, something inside me shifted, like a locked door cracking open, letting in a single sliver of light that cut through the darkness Zara had wrapped around me. And suddenly, the air in the room felt different, charged, tight, like something explosive was about to happen. My parents stood behind me, stiff and tense, unsure whether to defend me or question me, and my sister leaned against the wall with her arms crossed, wearing a look so calm it made my skin crawl, as if she already knew how this confrontation would play out, as if she had rehearsed every possible outcome except one, the truth fighting its way back to the surface. Rayhan looked at each of us before speaking, his voice trembling with anger only because he cared too much. And he said he deserved answers. He deserved to know why the woman he loved suddenly shut him out, why the family who had embraced him suddenly saw him as a threat, and why Zara, of all people, had so much to say about a relationship that was not hers to destroy. The moment he said her name, Zara stiffened, just slightly, but enough for me to notice, enough for me to feel a surge of suspicion flood into me stronger than before. My father asked Rayhan about the screenshots, his voice controlled and heavy, and for a second, Rayhan looked truly lost, as if stepping into a nightmare he didn't recognize. He asked to see them. I handed him my phone, and the second his eyes scanned the messages, his entire expression changed, not into guilt, but into disbelief so sharp it felt like a slap. He said the screenshots were fake. Not just fake, edited. Poorly edited. If you actually looked closely, the timestamps didn't match. The lighting in the photo with the other girl didn't match the dates shown. And the girl, he barely knew her. She worked at the same company as Zara, not him. The room froze. My mother's breath hitched, my father's jaw clenched, and for the first time since this nightmare began, I felt the fog around me thinning. Rayhan asked who sent the messages, and when I said they came from an unknown number, Zara immediately jumped in and claimed maybe the girl was trying to trap him, that maybe she was jealous, that maybe Rayhan wasn't telling the whole truth. She spoke so quickly, it gave her away. Rayhan stared at her with a look I had never seen on his face before. Pure, quiet recognition. Like someone finally seeing the villain hidden in plain sight. He asked Zara one simple thing. Why did she talk to that girl at her office the same week our engagement was announced? A question she wasn't expecting. A question she wasn't prepared to answer because Rayhan had found out, through a coworker, that Zara had asked that girl for friendly help in testing Rayhan's loyalty. Except Zara never told me that. She had said she didn't know the girl well. She had said she barely interacted with her. The lie collapsed right there. Zara froze, her confidence cracking for the first time, her breathing uneven. Her eyes darted to mine, searching for the version of me she used to manipulate so easily. But that version was fading fast. I asked her directly why she talked to the girl. I asked her why she kept saying she suspected Rayhan when she never had a single reason to. I asked her why every message, every warning, every doubt came from her mouth and not from anything I actually saw myself. And that was when she snapped. Not entirely, not loudly, but with a quiet sharpness that cut deeper than any scream could. She said she was trying to protect me, that she didn't want me making a mistake, that she didn't want me choosing a man who might hurt me. But Rihan interrupted her and said something none of us expected. He said Zara didn't want to protect me, she wanted to replace me. A silence fell so heavy it felt like the house itself held its breath. I looked at Zara, and in her eyes I finally saw it. Not guilt, not fear, but something raw and twisted, something like resentment wrapped in desperation. And then her words came spilling out in a moment of weakness she couldn't take back. She said she was always the one who had to watch me get everything first. I was the pretty one, the loved one, the one people adored without effort. She said Rihan should have noticed her, not me, that I was lucky, not deserving. My heart dropped into a cold, hollow place I didn't know existed. My mother gasped softly. My father stepped back as if a truth too heavy had just fallen into his hands. Zara kept going, unraveling more with each second, saying she had introduced the girl into the situation only to see how serious Rihan was. And when he didn't falter, she panicked because she realized he would never look at her the way he looked at me. The puzzle pieces clicked together in one brutal instant. The screenshots, the warnings, the constant interference, the whispering doubts. None of it was protection. It was sabotage. It was envy. It was a sister's quiet war disguised as concern. Rihan looked at me then, eyes soft despite everything, and said he never once strayed, never once lied, never once gave Rihan or anyone reason to think he would. And the weight of what Zara had done crashed into me with full force. I wanted to scream, I wanted to cry, I wanted to collapse under the betrayal that came from the person who was supposed to stand beside me for life. But before I could react, before anyone could process the mess unraveling around us, Zara suddenly stormed out of the room, her face twisted with humiliation and anger, slamming the door so hard a photo frame fell off the wall. My mother followed her. My father sat down with a heaviness that made him look older, and Rihan, he reached for my hand, not to pull me toward him, but to steady me as the ground beneath me shifted. And that's when everything took an even darker turn, because the fallout of Zara's betrayal was only the beginning, not the end. There were deeper secrets waiting, shadows stretching far beyond jealousy. And what happened next would flip the story completely, dragging me into a truth I never asked for, but could no longer escape. After Zara stormed out of the room and the echo of the slamming door finally settled into a suffocating silence, I felt a strange stillness wrap around me, the kind of stillness that comes right before something catastrophic breaks open. Because even though the truth about the screenshots had come out, there was a heaviness in the air, an unfinished darkness that made my skin prickle, as if this was only the surface and something far more dangerous lay underneath, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. My father stood up slowly, pacing the room with a stiffness in his shoulders I had rarely seen, the kind that appeared only when something was deeply wrong, something he couldn't yet put into words. And my mother returned minutes later with red eyes, saying that Zara had locked herself in her room, refusing to talk, refusing to admit what she had done, refusing to face the monster she had uncovered within herself. Rehan stayed beside me, not touching me, just close enough to steady the trembling that had started somewhere deep inside me. The kind of trembling that comes when the person you trusted your whole life suddenly becomes a stranger, capable of destroying everything you built. My father asked Rehan to sit because there were more things he wanted to understand. How Zara got involved with the girl, whether anyone else at her office was aware, whether the sabotage was something she planned alone, or if someone else encouraged her. But Rehan shook his head, saying that he didn't think this was about the girl or the office at all, that this felt personal, deeply personal, a kind of envy that had been brewing long before I even met him. And suddenly, memories rushed through my mind like a flood breaking a dam. Zara taking my things when we were little, Zara crying when I got praised, Zara becoming cold whenever someone told us I was the responsible one, Zara pretending to joke about me, always being the lucky sister, but her eyes never matched her smile. Somehow I had missed the signs, or maybe I had refused to see them, because admitting that your own sister resents you means facing a kind of grief no one prepares you for. While my parents discussed what to do, Rayhan asked if he could speak to me alone, and we stepped outside into the small garden where the glow of the porch light painted everything in soft, trembling shadows. I could see the pain in his eyes. Not anger, not resentment. Pain. The kind that comes from loving someone who has been dragged through a storm they didn't deserve. He told me again that he never betrayed me, never even considered looking at another woman, and that the photo Zara had used was taken at a company event months ago, a photo in which the woman had simply leaned forward to ask him something right as the camera clicked, and that Zara must have pulled it from the girl's social media, cropped it, altered the timestamp, and used it as ammunition. Listening to him made my chest tighten with guilt for ever doubting him, but he didn't blame me, not even for a second. Instead, he blamed himself for not noticing Zara's obsession earlier, saying he had always felt her eyes linger a little too long, always sensed an odd tension whenever she asked about our plans, always felt uncomfortable when she laughed at things he hadn't said or done. I stood there frozen as the weight of everything pressed into my ribs, like invisible hands trying to crush me. And before I could speak, before I could even understand what my next breath was supposed to feel like, my father stepped outside holding something in his hand. A small piece of crumpled paper he found near Zara's dresser while trying to convince her to talk. He said it looked like someone tried to tear it up and throw it away, but part of it remained intact. He handed it to me, and as soon as I unfolded it, my heart stopped. It wasn't just a piece of paper, it was a printed email. An email Zara had written to someone, except the part with the recipient's name was missing, but the message, that was enough. It said, make sure she sees it before the engagement. It has to look real. If this doesn't work, we'll try the other plan. The other plan. Those words felt like ice water spilled down my spine. I stared at the email, the jagged tear line, the timestamp from 2 weeks before the engagement announcement, and a chill raced through me as the reality settled in my bones. This wasn't impulsive jealousy. This was planned sabotage, premeditated, coordinated, and worst of all, not done alone. My father demanded to know who the email was for. Rayhan's face darkened, as if connecting dots we hadn't even realized existed yet. My mother covered her mouth with her trembling hand. And me, I could barely speak as a single horrible possibility rose in my mind like a shadow swallowing the light. Zara had a partner, someone encouraging her, someone helping her, someone who didn't want this engagement to happen, and not because of jealousy, but because of something even more sinister. We went back inside and gathered in the living room, the atmosphere thickening with dread. And every second that passed without Zara coming out of her room only made that dread heavier. My mother knocked again, calling her name, begging her to talk. But nothing came. Not a cry, not a word, not even a sound of movement. Then my father, exhausted and furious, told me to stay back while he tried to open the door. And when it didn't budge, fear erupted in me like a painful explosion. He pushed harder, again. Finally, the lock gave way with a sharp crack. The door flew open, and what we saw inside wasn't what any of us expected. Not tears, not guilt, not fear. Zara wasn't there. The room was empty, the window was open, the curtain was swaying in the faint breeze, and on the bed was a folded piece of paper with my name written on it. My stomach twisted as I reached for it, my fingers numb, my pulse loud in my ears. I unfolded it slowly, the paper trembling between my hands, and the message inside was only 3 sentences long. You think you know the truth, but you don't. I didn't do this alone, and the person who helped me is someone you trust even more than you trusted me. My breath left my body. A cold shock spread through every inch of me as the final line burned into my mind, branding itself like a wound that would never heal. Someone I trusted more than my sister. That meant a friend, a cousin, a family member, someone close, someone inside my life. And suddenly, everything that had already happened felt like the beginning of something much, much darker,
The moment I read Zara's letter, the world around me tilted, as if the floor itself had loosened beneath my feet, because the idea that someone I trusted even more than her had been part of this nightmare made my blood run cold. And while my parents panicked and Rayhan tried to steady me, my mind raced through the people closest to me, trying to connect invisible threads in a web I didn't even realize existed until now. And every memory began to shift. Colors changing, masks falling, revealing shadows I had never noticed before. Rayhan insisted we inform the police. My father agreed. But something inside me whispered that whoever was helping Zara wouldn't be caught easily, that this wasn't a petty scheme, but something woven carefully, thoughtfully, with the intention to break me from the inside out. And the thought made my hands tremble. I tried calling Zara. Her phone was switched off. I checked her messages. Nothing. Not even a hint. But then, as I scrolled through old conversations, I saw something, a pattern I had never paid attention to before. My best friend, Sana, had messaged me every single time Rayhan and I had an argument, every time Zara had planted a doubt, every time something went wrong. Her messages always came with the same tone of fake support, disguised advice, telling me to be careful, to watch out, to not trust too easily, all while pretending she cared. And suddenly, my chest tightened as a memory resurfaced. Sana and Zara whispering at my engagement dress fitting, saying it was about the color, but their faces had held something else, something I should have seen but didn't. I opened my chat with Sana, my pulse pounding in my ears, scrolling faster and faster until I found it. An audio message Zara sent me weeks ago, accidentally forwarded by mistake, where I could hear faint voices in the background, one of them unmistakably Sana's, talking about timing and making sure she sees it first. And the blood drained from my face so quickly I felt dizzy. Rayhan grabbed my shoulders asking what happened, and when I played the audio for him and my parents, their reactions were a mix of anger, betrayal, and horror. Because Sana wasn't just my friend, she was practically family. Someone who had stayed at our house countless times, someone who pretended to cry when I told her about my engagement, someone who hugged me tightly when I showed her my ring and said she was so happy for me. Someone who smiled in all the photos while secretly sharpening knives behind my back. I felt sick, truly sick. And then my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. But this time it wasn't a screenshot or a lie. It was a location pin. And one chilling line. Come alone if you want answers. My breath caught. It was the same number that had sent the fake screenshots earlier. Rayhan grabbed the phone, insisting it was a trap, that I wasn't going anywhere alone, but something inside me snapped. The exhaustion, the betrayal, the nonstop manipulation, and I said I was going, not to face danger, but to end this nightmare with my own hands, because I refused to live another day under someone else's twisted games. Rayhan didn't let me go alone. Of course he didn't. My father came too. My mother stayed home in case Zara returned. The location was a rundown parking lot near an old construction site, dim, quiet, swallowed by shadows. And when we arrived, the place felt like a scene pulled from a nightmare, one where the air itself watched, waiting. A figure stepped out from behind a pillar. My heart dropped. It wasn't Santa. It wasn't the girl from the office. It was Zara. Her face was streaked with dried tears, anger, and something else, something broken. She looked at me, then at Rayhan, then at my father, and the silence between us felt like a wound waiting to bleed. I asked her why she did it, why she tried to ruin my life, why she dragged someone else into it, and she laughed, not out of humor, but out of pain so deep it echoed, a laugh that cracked in the middle like something inside her had shattered long before this.
She said Sana wasn't just a friend. She was the one who fueled Zara's insecurities for years, whispering poison slowly, telling her how unfair life was, how I always had everything first, how I stole attention without trying, how Rayhan must have only chosen me because he met me before he met her, and when Zara confessed her envy to Sana, instead of healing her, Sana sharpened it, encouraged it, fed it until it grew into something twisted and monstrous. And the other plan mentioned in the email, my stomach nodded. The other plan was to make it look like Rayhan's family disapproved of me, to cause a fight between our families before the engagement, to create such chaos that the relationship would collapse without any guilt falling on Zara. She admitted everything, voice trembling, hands shaking, her eyes flickering between guilt and delusion. But then came the final blow. She said Sana didn't help her out of loyalty. She did it because she wanted me single, always, permanently, so I'd never leave her behind, never move ahead, never have a life better than her. And Zara, in her fragile desperation, believed her. And just when I thought I couldn't take more, footsteps echoed from behind us, and Sana herself appeared, smiling a cold smile that made my blood turn to ice, as if she had been waiting for her grand entrance, and she began clapping slowly, like this was a performance arranged for her entertainment. She admitted everything with a boldness Zara never had. The lies, the screenshots, the emotional manipulation, because in her mind, she wasn't guilty, she was justified. She said I didn't deserve happiness before her. She said I had always been lucky, and she was tired of watching me rise while she remained stuck in place. Before I could speak, before I could even cry, she stepped closer and said she would do it again because people like me don't learn unless they're broken. That was it. Rayhan lost his patience and stepped in front of me, telling her to stay away, his voice shaking with rage, and my father called the police right there, not caring about reputation, not caring about consequences, because betrayal of this magnitude wasn't something a family could swallow. When the police arrived, Sana still smiled. Zara didn't. She fell apart completely, sobbing, collapsing, pleading for forgiveness while being taken away, her betrayal mixing with guilt in a way that made her look smaller than I had ever seen her before. Sana remained emotionless, as if nothing she did mattered, as if she believed she'd be free in no time. But her confidence cracked when the officers found the fake accounts, the edited photos, the messages linking her directly to the sabotage. It was over. Truly over. Days passed. Weeks. The storm began to settle. Zara received psychological help. My parents allowed her back evenly under strict boundaries. But the trust was gone, replaced by a fragile silence that would take years to heal. Sana, I cut her off forever. She moved away after everything came out publicly, unable to face the consequences of her own cruelty. And me? I rebuilt. Slowly, carefully, with Rayhan by my side every step of the way, proving again and again that love doesn't break in storms. It reveals whose hands truly hold you. And we married months later, quietly, gently, with no huge celebration, because I no longer needed big moments. I needed honest ones. And as I stood beside Rayhan on our wedding day, holding the hand that never let go, even when my own sister tried to destroy us, I realized something powerful. Betrayal doesn't break you. It unmasks the people who were never meant to stay. And sometimes the deepest wounds create the strongest truth, that not everyone you love deserves a place in your story, and not everyone who knows your heart deserves to hold it. But the ones who protect it, they are the ones worth walking into the future with, unshaken and unafraid.